Florin used to be the, what was it, lead product owner? Chief product officer at the largest, remind me again, mobile apps developer?
Mobile app publisher.
Mobile app publisher in Europe.
The most downloads, where it matters.
Excellent. And he has started Solidify. And at the end of this video, we're going to give you guys a really, really sweet discount for that product. And yeah, let me think. What else am I missing? Tufan, Florin. We've got that. You've been doing this for several years. You're out of Romania. I don't meet a whole lot of people that have raised venture capital out of Romania. So that's really cool. And yeah, let's get started talking about your journey. Like, how did you get started? What did you do? What brought you into this? I see you haven't cut your hair in a long time, just like the rest of us. Tell me about that. How did you get going with all this?
Let's start with the haircut, right?
All right.
I have 2 more weeks before I just shave it all off. I cannot stand it anymore. It's been 50 days since I left the apartment. I'm sick of the walls. I just, like, whenever my dad calls me, I keep him on the phone for like a full hour, just because I feel the need to talk to somebody else.
Yeah, I keep telling Kristen that I'm actually gonna grow my hair all the way just down to my shoulders and just go you know, I don't know if you ever see JP Sears, the guy that does ultra spiritual.
Yeah.
If I get ripped like that, then I'm gonna be JP Sears with the beard.
You look very similar now that you mention it.
Yep, we might be the same person. All right, so you got started, you said 6 years ago, is that right?
Yeah, when I was like 20, I used to do like sales jobs. And you know, when you just get started with your career, they put you to do all the shitty stuff, like, which in sales is usually prospecting. Like, give us a list of 1,000 hotels around the city. And you just go and Google it for like a week or 2, and then you come back all frustrated, doing nothing else but Googling for 2 weeks in a row. And I was that guy, and being paid the minimum salary for that.
Okay. We actually just brought somebody on helping us with that. She does a lot of other things, but yeah, we gave her a list of leads list to make as well.
Yeah, when you do prospecting, it's very important that you do something else. So you don't go crazy.
Yeah.
So I was that guy. At that job, I had like 3 sales jobs for 3 months each. I couldn't stand them more than that. Then moved to other kind of roles, more into account management, project management, and product management. And Solidify at the beginning was just something because we were bored of our full-time jobs, and we just wanted to take on projects on the side. And this was something that stayed with me for a number of years. I used most of the prospecting tools out there, did small freelance jobs in helping people get lists of companies and business data online for a number of years, also out of boredom or like pure passion in the weekends, not my main gig. And I had some very good ideas on how to turn that into a full-time job or like a product that can make the whole category a lot better. And we're on our way to doing that.
I'm curious, other than your product, what's your favorite product on the market for lead gen?
It really depends on who you are. I think DataNice had an incredible product very early on. Are you familiar with it?
Say it again.
DataNice.
DataNice. Spell that for me.
Data NYZE.
Don't know DataNice.
It started off, it was a Mark Cuban investment very early on before they had a product. The idea was that you'll get notified whenever somebody signs up for one of your competitors. So it's hard to top that promise. That's amazing. So let's say you have a solution like a CRM.
Okay.
And then you get a daily list of these are the 1,000 companies that started free trials with other CRMs today. 200 of them with Salesforce, to another 200 with HubSpot, and so on.
Okay.
This is because technical tools, they usually have you install something on the website.
Okay.
So they would just crawl the internet every day. and send you a list of everybody who signed up for one of your competitors. It's hard to beat that. This is from a technical perspective my favorite one by far. I also like the growth hacking tools such as Phantom Buster, which is like Phantom Buster.
Phantom Buster.
Yes.
I don't even know about these. Never even heard of these tools.
Phantom Buster is an interesting one because it's not so much. It's not a database. It does not rely on a database. But what they do these technical integrations on top of data sources that you might already use. So, for example, if you need to take all the names and company names outside the LinkedIn group, you just install something from their end and upload your cookie for LinkedIn sign up in their tool.
Oh,
And
that's really cool.
they will just scroll that group, and then you can connect another one of their tools and enrich that data with like email addresses.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I didn't even know that existed.
There are some free alternatives that I use. I don't. Why I don't like Phantom Buster, I would never put my personal LinkedIn account because I've got some important connections there. I would never put my cookie in a third party source. But if it's very relevant for your business case, then you can make like an alternate profile for yourself where you don't have those high-end connections and just use that for marketing and sales. There are also there's a tool called webscraper.io that you can kind of configure to scrape any website that you can think of. And I mean like any website, like from Crunchbase to Yelp to Google Maps to wherever, whatever local associations your prospects might be in, you can just like get all the content from that website. It's very it's very complex to configure. You can have tons of settings, so you can make sure you don't get caught by people trying to avoid bots and stuff. I have a video that I can share where I made like a tutorial for it. It's a 20-minute tutorial. I just shared it with some friends. I can share it with a group as well.
Great.
And the thing is that you can put something to work. You can link like all these tools. You can link them and build with and Clearbit and use like 5 tools to make it work for your sales teams. But that's not really like, name another product category where it works like this. Like people ask you, how would you store a database of your leads? And then your reply would be, there are these 10 products, you just have to link them together and then you'll have your product. It doesn't usually work like that. There are very few categories where that's the case.
Yeah.
But for lead generation, there hasn't been like a product to rule them all. Datanyze was a product to rule them all for tech data.
Okay.
I think Crunchbase is a product to rule them all for startups.
Yep.
But we don't have something that works like Crunchbase when you target digital agencies, or in your case, healthcare.
Yep.
So that was the premise. It was never supposed to turn into like a real business or not even full time. We were happy with our jobs. We were happy with our lifestyles. We just got bored and looked onto working at something that we were passionate about. That it was just like a project that was just supposed to be interesting for us. But we met a lot of companies that were looking for these very highly specific kind of lists of prospects. Like I just want, for example, we had this customer very early on he was part of a lot of communities online where people that buy lands and invest in real estate, they just hang out and talk about investments. And he had tens of thousands of names and companies, but to get from that to a database you can actually use for cold emailing or cold calling or even ad audiences on LinkedIn or on Facebook, it's he and other companies just hired us for it.
Okay.
And when we worked with like 20 customers in a month or two, It was just very clear that there's the need to build like a product where these people can just go and have their settings in a couple of minutes.
So I got to use your tool when I guess a while ago. It was six months ago. I think we started something like that. It was
4, I think. 4 months ago we launched. Yeah.
Okay, so 4 months ago, I got when I first pulled it up, I was like, "This is fantastic," because one of my companies does target it's a digital agency that targets kind of general business, and then also the healthcare side, and then we also target manufacturing. There was nothing I could find that would help me target those manufacturing customers. Like, they were so freaking hard to find. Like even just scraping the web was really hard for them. And so that was actually one of my first and really one of my best uses of the system so far. Is that I remember we talked and I was like, dude, like the thing, like if you can solve this problem for me, I will pay you whatever. And in I don't know what, like in a day, I had a list of like 2,000 or 5,000 CEOs of manufacturing companies. And I was like, I just blew my mind. Just like we were able to put that out and start doing the sales there. And it was just unbelievable. Like, that saved so much time and so much money and so much frustration and some poor person's time that would have had to been Googling for weeks and weeks doing this stuff.
My time 6 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was amazing. It was like a game changer for us. Like really, really a game changer for us, which is why I've been wanting to do this video with you for so long, because I want to tell everybody else about how amazing this tool is that you put together. And clearly you have 6 years of experience doing this stuff. So, I mean, like, so, and by the way, so everybody else knows, my team actually thought about building a tool like this, and I called Florin about this, and I was like, Florin, like, we thought about doing this. This is how we thought we would do it. And he's like, yeah, you're doing it completely wrong. Like, all that stuff that you thought, that's what I would have thought too, and none of that shit will work. And instead, this is how to do it. So can you, like, when you're going through and scraping, like, let's pick something difficult. Let's maybe healthcare or healthcare tech CEOs. I don't know. You tell me, what's something difficult that you've had to scrape, or you've done that job for somebody that that was a tough one, and how did you go about doing it? Like, if independent of your tool for now, how did you go about doing those difficult scraping projects?
I think the most difficult project we had wasn't so much in a niche, but in a geo. It was in Philippines. There's no government database to rely on. There's no LinkedIn. There is LinkedIn. It just doesn't have the usage that it does in the US. There's nothing to build upon. This was actually very early on, before we had anything put together. The first step we did was to try to scrape all the directories everybody put together, and to see which company is represented with the same data in all of them, and just assume that that's the right data for that company, like the right address, the right contact person.
So when you talked about, like, how did you find the directories? In the Philippines, I'm sure, like, did you just Google, like, how did you even start with that kind of thing?
Well, but at that point, we already had a virtual assistant that was just finding directories for us.
Okay.
And it was a lot of Googling done on their end. Okay. And sometimes going into the right Facebook groups in the Philippines and just asking around. And we ended up with like 10 local directories, which is like the usual Yellow Pages and Yelp and stuff. And the problem was that for no more than 20%, the data was the same across directories. So for one company, we would have in one place one address, in another place another address, and everything was different. Like the niche, everything was just scrambled.
Okay.
And when you really think of, because you mentioned like your team's problems with finding the right data in all these niches, you wouldn't think it's that difficult before actually trying, right? You'd say like this is just common data. You can just there has to be somebody that just sells it around, and there are lots of people selling it around. It's just it usually everybody has a horror story about buying data online.
Yeah.
And the problem really is when you think about what kind of data the government has about your company and how outdated that is, then you kind of start putting pieces together and realize why this kind of happens. Because then the same data is passed on to the yellow pages of this world, and then passed on to the public and everybody who scrapes it, and then it gets on, and it starts being regarded as the truth about that company online. And yet it's usually highly inaccurate.
Yep. Yeah. So I remember when you and I first talked, you're talking about these directories. I think it's important to take a quick step back and mention that, like, when you're going to search for people's names and information, when a lot of people think about it, they start off by saying, well, I'm just going to go search Google for so-and-so company, and then I'll find the stuff. And if I was going to scrape it, maybe I just scrape Google and then find the top companies. And then that's how I would go and do the thing. But when you and I talked the first time, you were like, yeah, that doesn't work. Can you explain to everybody why that doesn't work?
Well, first of all, in your scenario, the assumption is that you already know what companies you're looking for, which most of the time it's not the case.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You kind of have a profile in mind. It's like you're looking for health clinics for over 50 employees, or that are structured like this, or would have this department. But to have the actual names, there's one step forward that you need to move to. And the default place, I think, or our experience as regular users would be to just go and check out things like Google Maps.
Okay. Yep.
Which for us as regular users, we are used to doing that and seeing the first page of results. Yep. And the first page of results is usually very good. But I would challenge you to go to page number 5 or page number 7 for whatever keyword, and you'll see that results start getting very, very weird. And if you take the scraping approach, then you'd have to either factor that in or just dismiss the leads after the first page.
Yep. And I think you mentioned something about like the SEO companies kind of mess it up for everybody as well.
Yeah, that's they break everything, right?
Yeah.
So one thing that I find that works the best in cold emailing is to mention the company name in the subject line. It's probably the easiest thing that you can do that will boost your open rates. Just keep the exact same structure, but find a way to put the company name there. Will make them open. And the bigger the company, the better, because the bigger the company, the more important it sounds that you mentioned that company name there. And the problem is if you scrape Google or Yelp, you'll find things like Jason Long kicking SaaS, Jason Long from Kicking SaaS Facebook group.
Yeah.
And if you just take that and use as a company name because it's listed as a company name in Google Maps or Google or Yelp, and if you take that and mention it in your subject line, you'll get marked as spam, and you will not know the reasons because you're trying to do it at scale.
Yep.
The whole point of taking this approach is not use people to actually look at the data, because that takes days.
Yep.
There's a million problems. Sometimes Google gives you the option of setting 10 business categories when you set up a Google Maps or Google My Business profile. And for example, for a shopping mall, they would often check every niche where they have a shop in.
Yep.
Which is not really your expectation if you're looking for a dentist, and in that specific mall there's a dentist office. You don't expect, when you search for dentists in city, you don't expect that shopping mall to show up.
I see. Gotcha.
Which brings the problem that you still need somebody to take a look at the data.
Yep.
Which defeats the purpose, because the whole point of scraping is not to have somebody to look at the data.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So these are the things that I just did not think about when we thought about building this tool to begin with. Like we had some idea, but you're right. Like doing it at scale, like you run into so many problems. So as you've built your tool, so go back to the story about the government offices in the Philippines. So now people understand kind of the background of like why this is such a pain in the butt to do.
Yeah, so we had like maybe 5 big directories that we thought are reliable, the yellow pages type of websites. And the problem is that for 80% of the listings, we're talking about 100,000 businesses in all directories, so a big volume. For 80% of them, the problem was that for the same company with the same address, one directory will tell us that it's a church and the other one will tell us that it's a digital agency. So how would you know which one has the right answer, or what is this company really doing? And it's even more challenging because some companies, as weird as that might sound, were both.
Okay.
So you'd say there's no way in hell that a business can do both of these things at the same time. And there are cases that it might happen.
Gotcha.
So we did just a simple classification machine learning algorithm. We said like, yeah, we should try and put whatever photos they have, because again, we're talking about a very big volume. Whatever photos, whatever tagline we have, whatever Facebook page description, whatever website we have, we should be able to at least see if this a hospital or an SEO agency. Like that should be pretty easy to do in an automated way.
So do you put in place NLP in there? Or so and do you use a third party for that, or do you build your own system? I assume you have to use your own tools for that kind of thing, because otherwise the cost would be really high.
Yeah, exactly. That's the reason. Yeah, if you want to rely on a third party, your costs will just get you bankrupt really quickly. And there are examples of companies attempting that and dying like really quickly with good funding as well.
We use tools, NPL stuff. NLP stuff, sorry. And yeah, it's freaking expensive. It's so expensive. It's good, it works, but they love their data. They do not want to part with it.
Yeah, right. I'll share another example of a customer, which was really the aha moment we had. There was this YC company just went out of YC. They just had their demo day, raised a lot of money, and they were looking for high school counselors across the United States, where there are something like 10,000 or 12,000 high schools in the US.
Yep.
And when we met them, they were like, yeah, we're just going to hire people on Upwork. And we have this huge government database of high schools, and we'll just have them look at each one website individually and go through the list of 12,000 high school websites. And how bad can that be? And we said, like, look, we can automate that for you, and you'll probably have the same exact cost, but you'll have the results tomorrow, not a month from now. And without the overhead of managing all these people and hiring them and checking after them, probably, you cannot expect that it all goes very well from the start, right? And they said no. And then we talked again to them a month from the first conversation, and it was like a nightmare. They had like less than 1,000 entries on the list in 1 month. They were managing like 50 freelancers on Upwork, and they had 2 people handling all the data extraction. And then we were like, but this it's a nightmare when we see it as a snapshot in a conversation, right? But imagine like 1 month of slowly building this entire machine of managing 50 remote people, and all just to get a list of leads. And that was really the aha moment. It was like, look, we can. Sure, the problem is that they would have to trust us as people, and that's why they decided not to. They would have to trust our promise of delivering on the tech side. And we were like, but no, we can show them a sample, and with a few clicks, they can just export the list of all high school counselors in the United States, and then there'll be no trust needed. They'll see the data, export the data, and just use it, and never have to think about it ever again.
Yep.
And that was, I think, the definite aha moment.
Okay. So within your so I'm actually kind of breaking down like how your system actually works in my head. So you go through this process of scraping these directories, and I guess how much manual work is there behind the scenes in your system? I'm just curious.
We don't use directories anymore.
Okay.
We only use them at first to have like a starting point. First of all, a database of like tens of millions of websites that are actually websites of businesses, not like blogs or publishers or so just to get started with the database and have an initial data set so that we cut down on the time of actually training all these machine learning models.
Okay.
Right now, we don't use any third-party kind of resource. The way it works is the bot goes on a website and takes a look at all the content and says, oh, this is a gym, or this is a beauty salon, or this is a hospital. And then it sends over to another machine learning another machine learning servers that knows how to extract the data we need, things like all the addresses, employee names, company name. And for some industries, and we're taking it industry by industry, it also sends it to another server that knows how to extract data dedicated for that industry. So for example, for law firms, it identifies and extracts all the kind of areas of the law in which a lawyer might specialize in, and
Oh wow.
makes the cross reference between the lawyer name, their job title, and the law area of expertise, and then also does the same for the law firm. So basically, let's say a software company that targets or makes software for law firms can go there and say, like, I want all the law firms in the US that have less than 10 lawyers and work with business law and Chapter 13 bankruptcy and whatever, and which brings us, I think, to the most important point of doing outreach correctly. It's data that people leverage to customize their outreach so it doesn't sound like spam. It's like it doesn't sound like, oh, you're a lawyer, use this software, it's for lawyers, bye-bye. That doesn't work. If it's obvious for the other person that you've sent the same email to 1,000 people, then you're doing it wrong.
Yep. So this is actually the thing that I love about your software the most, is that I can go in and customize my search so good. And actually, we have sales coming in right now off of a list we ran on your tool a month ago. Right now, like, actually, I think Jesse is, he called me last night. He's one of my team members, and he was like, hey man, I got several more demos set up. And it came in directly from that list. So and it was a cold email and call campaign. And it was easy, man. It was so easy. And it was because we could do that high level of
segmentation.
Exactly. We could do that high level of segmentation, and it really made a huge difference. So,
dude, I love that feedback. Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback.
Yeah, of course. And I think we're running a whole bunch more lists. So we're going to have, like I said, we've got the manufacturers list going. We've got an economic developers list going. We've got an associations list going. We've got so many lists going. And actually, before I forget, we're also tearing down your website on Tuesday. So everybody, so you remember, and so everybody else knows, we're going to be tearing down your front end website. We got a panel of UX designers coming in to do that. And we're going to take a look at your app, and we're going to compare it to a couple other apps. So I'll send you an email and let you know what we're going to compare it to, so you know ahead of time, so you be ready for it.
I'll grab a beer. I'll grab a beer so that I don't take it personally.
There's a couple competitors that it's going to be. I think it's going to be a good solid teardown. All right, so hold on. Let me get my list of stuff. So we only talked about your journey for just a minute. Did you want to expand on that at all?
I want to ask you if you're aware, or maybe we can ask Jesse, of how the cold email campaigns are performing in this time as opposed to others before, like with all the COVID crisis.
All of our stuff is, we compete in economic development in the US. The economic developers are doing exactly the same thing. Like they haven't changed, and we sell stuff that's like a year out. So it doesn't make a difference. We compete in US-based manufacturing. Everything is coming over here. We have one of our biggest customers called me the other day and said they want to double their spend with us. So
yeah,
no problem. We compete in U.S. healthcare, healthcare IT, or healthcare tech and SaaS delivered systems. Those are going crazy, and U.S.-based consultancies. So all of our businesses are going nuts, and we're actually super busy. We actually are hiring 2 new project managers and 3 new salespeople right now.
awesome.
So yeah, so we're expanding at the moment. So we're doing great.
Congrats, dude.
Thank you. All right. So what else about website scraping? Like, if you were gonna, like I said, other than using your tool, for people that are having a hard time finding their leads on things like Seamless or LinkedIn Sales Navigator, or I don't know, any of the other tools out there, what else could you tell them other than using Datanyze, Phantom Buster, WebScraper.io? How else? Any other recommendations?
Yes, there's a sweet deal that I just noticed 2 days ago, which is actually a much more affordable replacement of Datanyze.
Okay.
If you don't mind, I'll just name the name. Give me a second.
Yeah, please. Any names, please.
I'm not affiliated in any way. Just think it's a very good thing that for a change is not that expensive. Tech Tracker.
Tech Tracker. Gotcha.
It's on lifetime deal right now.
Oh, perfect. It's on AppSumo?
It's on SaaS Mantra.
SaaS Mantra. Oh, okay. Maybe if Sampath is watching, Sampath, you got your shout out right now. SaaS Mantra. All right. And so if for everybody in the group, Sampath, who runs SaaS Mantra, which is a lifetime deal site and SaaS education system, is in this group, is in Kicking SaaS, and he's an awesome guy. He's a really good guy. And so Florin, you and I both had lifetime deals with Sampath, right?
Yeah, he's a mutual friend of ours.
Yeah, and he's actually the one that connected us, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So Tech Tracker is live on SaaS Mantra. Anything else? Any other recommendations?
Yeah, I would say there's a local business association for any niche you can think of. There's a Facebook group for any niche you can think of. LinkedIn hasn't done so great with Facebook groups, unfortunately. With LinkedIn groups, unfortunately, would have been an awesome resource. But there are all these free tools that you can use to just extract the data you need from those sources.
How would you extract the data from, say, a Facebook group?
You can either use Phantom Buster if you don't want to have any headaches around it.
Okay.
They have like a set and forget recipe for that. You can use Data Miner, which is a free Chrome extension.
I know Data Miner.
Yeah, or you can use WebScraper.io, it requires a bit of technical understanding, or let's say like in something like 2 or 3 hours learning curve. But once you understand how to, because it's made by developers, the UX is not great. It's just developers doing stuff for the other developers. But once you understand how to use it, you can use it to extract data from anywhere, and it's 100% free. And you just run it on your computer. I have a computer in my home for my outreach that I just use to extract data all day.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's not part of the tool. It's just something I do. I use it to extract data. For example, I go in Google News and search for a specific keyword, something like startup opened office. And then look for click every article that appears there in the past 3 days, let's say. And then collect all the external links that go to the startups website. Or I scrape job listing websites, which are awesome. That's how we got most of our clients when we were building lists as a service.
Okay.
Whenever
like to Indeed or something like that? Like what sites?
Indeed, for example, yeah. Indeed
Okay.
is probably the best for the US.
Okay.
It depends on the country you're in, or the space, or the specific niche. If you're looking for jobs in tech in a specific niche, you might use the angel.co. You can use, so that's why I don't specifically mention one or other directory, but there's a directory for anything.
Perfect. Yeah, actually, I can think of several people I've talked to, several people in this group that I've talked to recently that were looking for a solution like this. And so knowing that, well, one, knowing that your tool exists, but also that these other things, like I really like that method of finding all the lists and then grabbing the URL and then scraping that site. Like that's really smart. I can see that being really, really helpful.
It's very hard to scale past a certain point, so you can do like 50 emails per day of very right in the moment trigger based outreach. You can do
Okay.
like up to a couple like 20 or 50 a day. It's very
Okay.
hard to scale past a certain point, but these will be the cold emails that will bring the best results by far, right?
Gotcha.
Let's say you're providing SEO services and somebody is hiring like an inbound professional for SEO, or like a link builder, and then you reach out at that specific moment. Your odds are great to just nail the deal. And even if they don't hire you instead, or your agency, you might be a helpful resource to the guy that they just brought in yesterday.
Perfect.
It's the moment where they build their tech stack and their outside collaborators. And we're still it's in our long-term plans to add this kind of stuff inside our tool, also with machine learning. So whenever we identify a trigger, but right now there's this scraping approach that I think it's also the cheapest you can do for free with just a computer, and it will take you probably 20 minutes a day.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's very good. If you are to do one thing in your outreach, let it be this one.
Perfect. All right. So I know. So we still need to cover venture capital and you had mentioned cold emails. So maybe you could actually let's jump to cold emails and then we'll use like the last 10 minutes to talk about venture capital. So because I feel like this is something that I've had a hard time with is that I can get all these emails pulled in, and usually what I do or what I used to do is use quick mail to send out stuff, because I felt that I got really good responses on that. I was able to hit people's inboxes really solid. And recently, we've also been using Lemlist. And by the way, Jeremy from QuickMail is a buddy of mine. I was sat on a mastermind with him. Really, really smart guy. I think he's in this group. I invited him, but I haven't seen him yet. So QuickMail, Lemlist, and that's how we would do, and we'd set up like a 4 email outreach series with some calls and some social links as well, social connections as well. How do you do it? I happen to know that you are a cold email pro or an outreach email pro. Like, tell me, teach us all. Like, what's your process? What's your method? How do you manage getting the links directly from like you get the emails directly from these businesses that are just starting? You pass them directly in? Do you look at them? What is your process?
Yeah, the answer would be it depends to your last question.
Okay.
I think so I watched the very awesome live that you did last week with Mike about sales, and I would say Mike would probably have a very different approach than mine, because we're so different. I would never be able to get results with cold calling, although I used to do this as a job for like 3 months. But
it took him a year and a half, so maybe you just were I don't know, like a
yeah,
year less.
at some point you have to give up on stuff that you just don't nail really quickly, right? You have to pick your fights in life.
Yeah.
I don't have a persuasive personality. I hate pushing people. I really do. So I had to adapt my management style, my interpersonal style, my sales style to this. And the thing that I found to be the most useful to this is to actually find an approach where you never have to sell anything. It's the approach that I take. It's just an approach that I'm very comfortable with. It doesn't make me question myself or my ethics, or like it doesn't I don't have to ask myself like, is this bullshit or not? So it's just a personal choice. It's just something um, I'm trying to work around my flaws. Actually, I'm not. It's not a moral high ground that I'm trying to take.
Yeah.
It's just something that it felt very weird to me doing all this. Have you ever tried doing this, or have the latest secret that you'll never have heard, or the pros are using and you've been left out? I used to be poor, but I discovered this 3-step process, and now I'm extremely rich. And look at my Lambo. I hate doing that. So I don't do that. I don't like it. So I had to find ways around it, and the way I do it is um, I just try to offer value. I write emails like I would write an email to you or to somebody else I care about and that I want to see succeed and that I want to bring value to their life. And I just take the exact same approach and write like that to a stranger. Well, some people might freak out. Most of them don't. Most of the people are just genuinely impressed. It takes me probably longer to write emails in that way. And it's a bit weird when you don't have a recipient that you know to just start doing that. So um, the way I do it is first actually write to some friends, and then I go around either Facebook or LinkedIn or a directory. For example, for agencies, there's a big one called Clutch.co. I just go and look at business listing there until I feel like I really understand them. And if I were to interview as a growth person for a job in their company, I know what I would pitch. Like how would I be able to help their business? And when I have that, I just write that one email, and then I do the same for another, let's say, 5 companies, and then I turn it into a template. Then I know what
Okay.
kind of companies I'm looking for. So let's say let's go with the example from earlier. There are SaaS companies selling to small and medium law firms.
Okay.
Even if I try to not scale it and just write individual emails, I will probably say more or less the same stuff between
Yep.
the companies. That's when I turn it into a template. With
Okay.
follow-ups, I take a more mechanical approach. There are just short one-liners most of the time.
So
That
when you're talking about this approach, like, so what I usually do is I do like an intro email that is super generic. Like, hey, I sell this thing. Would you like to schedule some time? But no links, because I want to make sure that it's going to be delivered. Then email 2 is usually, this is like the standard email process. Email 2 is like, don't forget, it's still there. Did you get it lost? Make sure you saw it. Email 3 is more in depth. It's got like a link to a case study. Email 4 is saying, hey, I'm going to take you off my list. Thanks so much. And we get the majority of our emails coming in from email 4. What is your email sequence usually? Do you have a standard email sequence?
I have patterns. I don't have like a standard one that I would just like a fill in the blanks sequence. I have things that work. Uh, for example, I will have default subject lines like about company name. Sure, that would be like it's the type of subject line that will always bring in 50% open rates. Like we know that. We know we can do better. We know we can reach 70% with some work. But in case nothing works for this niche, then we'll just use that as the default A/B test to test against.
What do you think is one of your best email subject lines?
I um, what I try to be sneaky with subject lines. Is the only place where I try to be sneaky because it's so important that people don't actually remember it once they click it. They do not recall like what the fuck you said something about something else in the subject line. That's not like that. Once you click it, you just read it like not remembering the subject line.
Okay.
For example, I had a campaign for one client that was doing property management software, and I was writing to property managers. And I used subject lines that would be the same subject lines that come from actual clients or prospects. like your property in Boulder, Colorado, your 2-bedroom apartment, or
Gotcha.
and then it
Gotcha.
would be like managing that 2-bedroom apartment or managing your properties in Boulder, Colorado.
Okay.
Did I get that right? With Boulder, Colorado, there's a city
Yeah,
called
it's
Boulder.
Boulder, Colorado. Yeah, that's right. And what was your open rate on that? I'm sure
Uh,
it was very high.
it
It was
was
like
80%. Yeah, it was 80%.
Yeah.
But that's a bit sneaky, right? Because property managers work in their inbox, so
Yep.
it probably would have been about 50% with just company name.
Yeah, so if when you say company name, you mean like just have the name of the company as the subject line?
Yeah,
So your company or their company?
their company.
Okay.
Nobody cares
So
about your company.
yeah, I know. So I was like, how you? What are you talking about? Okay. Any other great subject lines?
Um, there's always like the sneaky tactics, which in some niches work. For example, marketing to marketers is a weird one.
Okay.
I think you can be very polarizing, or either be extremely safe, go against every best practice of marketing, not try to grab attention, not try to overemphasize, not try to overinflate statements, or you can write like this beautiful masterpiece of overinflating to get some respect from them.
Okay.
And there's things that should be tried out on most marketers. Are a great example of audience that you can try some sneaky things, like just leave company name in between brackets. The shock, they'll laugh about it, and they'll open the email because they laugh about it. As opposed to when you're writing to lawyers, I don't think you should be that playful.
Yeah.
You can try and reference something like, read this quickly before lunchtime and send it at like 11:50 p.m. 11:50 a.m.
Gotcha.
or right before you go to sleep and send it at 11:30 p.m. Or you can be playful, but if the audience will allow it.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good idea. Like I feel like my emails are never playful.
Yeah, you can try. Let's say you're marketing something to gym trainers, and you'll say, "Pecs will take you along, will take you very far, but will they do this for you?" Or something like
Okay.
that. Like the thing
I like
you'll never learn, the things you'll never learn by working your bicep, or something like really crazy. Because the subject lines will allow that, right? It's the entire point is just to get it open.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. I'm gonna work more on my subject lines from here on.
I've done something extremely sneaky. I have a friend who's runs an event company in Singapore. In
Okay.
Singapore, either Singapore or Shanghai. I'm sorry, I've never visited, so I have that excuse. And what I did in a campaign for him, I used I scraped LinkedIn for a number of companies that have offices there, and I was looking for the marketing guy in those companies, and I just wrote their boss's name or the CEO with question mark.
Gotcha. Yep. But how do you like once they like so when I get emails like that, I'm like I don't know. I'm it's rare that an email gets past me, that even a subject line gets past me. Like if I see a subject line, because like in Google, like in Gmail, like you've got the subject line, you've got the first little bit of the sentence of the body right there, and I'm like the most discerning, and I feel like other people in this group are the same. Like I'm sure very few get through.
Yeah.
And so, if I saw something that was like, let's say my operations manager, so like Michelle's name and then like question mark.
Sure.
I don't know. Maybe I'd open that. Maybe. I would say there's probably like a 1 in 3 chance I'd open that.
Yeah. Well, what I do, for example, when promoting Solidify, these were just examples of playful things that you can try out, and it depends on the audience. I don't think that SaaS owners would be. I think the best email for to get through to a SaaS owner is just like a one line where you just cut through the point. They don't care who you are. They just like, I want to do this for you. Are you free for a quick call? Like something like extremely 20 minutes, like a 20-minute commitment if they're interested, and they'll know right away. They don't need to be seduced into something, or convinced or persuaded.
I
Or
like to be seduced into it. Okay.
for Solidify, just say something like, "Hey Jason, I'll just give you the contact data for 100 health clinics in your state. No commitment. That's it. There's no catch." So, and then I'll ask something that's relevant for, like, does it matter what the head count of those clinics is, or do you need a specific contact person that you need to reach out to? So I know I'll include it in the list, or something like that. And actually, my objective is, of course, there's no catch. I'll give you that free list. That's um, basically my cost of reaching out to you. But all I want to know from you is, who are you targeting specifically? Because I can kind of extrapolate from the copy on your website, or using some smart machine learning or keyword based search, that if I say for healthcare and then I look for SaaS companies, then I'll know it's your solution has at least one of their personas in healthcare, and then I can reach out to multiple companies that are the same. Um, but then I want to know exactly who you need to target. Is it the office manager? Is it larger clinics, smaller clinics? And use that as an entry point, so I can actually pitch to you my solution. If I
Gotcha.
were to like pitch to you, do you need a place to find all the healthcare clinics? Whatever.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, that's what I feel comfortable with. I know it would be helpful. It's something that I would be comfortable in writing to you after I know you, and I don't feel like I'm bullshitting you. It's free value. It's something that I'm comfortable with, and it works so far.
Okay. When I talk to you and I think about this, I think like, man, I do better on my all of my outreach. I feel like I'm really good at building stuff, and then I just don't want to sell it. And yeah, I feel like that's the same for a lot of developers as well. Designers, developers are like, I love building this stuff, and then like I talk to you, I talk to Mike, and I'm like, I gotta do better on my sales. I
when
gotta do
i'm
better.
when I'm building, I love building, and I would do nothing else. But then when you start getting, like, we got a new client this morning, it's so addictive. Like, I wanted to do nothing else. I had a call with a tool that we're integrating with, and I really did not want to do that call. I just wanted, like, keep talking to prospects, and
Yeah.
it's an adrenaline rush you get, and that
Yep.
feeling of winning, it's addictive.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It is fun to win.
Yeah.
All right, so we got like 5 minutes left. Let's talk about raising capital. Like that's you raised a fair amount of money, and your tool is growing. Obviously, you're winning. You're out there talking to people, and like I said, I've used your tool and it's freaking amazing. But tell me about that process, because I've never raised venture capital, and I know that there's a bunch of people in this group that are interested in at least hearing about it. And also, I recently had a conversation with somebody who took a business up to 400 million and sold it.
Wow.
Big money,
Yeah.
big money.
Real money.
And his recommendation was, he was like, don't ever use your own money. Don't ever use your own money. It wasn't even that was like his fourth or fifth business or something that he sold and did really, really well with. And like whenever I talk to people like that, I'm just like, I suck at this stuff so badly. Because he's like the same age as me, and he, like, his first liquidation was, I was like 25 years old or something like that, and just a long history of huge success. But anyway, his thing he and I talked about last time was, don't use your own money. And tell me what was your journey? How did it go? What happened? How did you decide that this was what you're going to do? Yeah, I guess you had to leave your other job to go and do this because you got bored. You started this thing, and then you were like, okay, I guess we need some money to actually really take it to market. Tell me about it.
I think there are people that would rather use their own money. It depends on what your mental relationship is with money.
Okay.
For me, I was raised in a rather on the poor end of families. Romania wasn't the richest country in the world when I grew up. It's doing better now. Like, you can have a very good lifestyle here, just with regular jobs. But when I grew up, it wasn't like that. It was right after communism. It was very, like, 10 years of recession, 300% inflation. all the stuff. So my relationship with money wasn't that great growing up. When in my last job before starting this, I used to have a relationship with the founder, something like, I get $1 million to do this year, and this is the objective, and sort of like a C-level executives regular in a regular company. And that there was no emotional attachment to the money, right? It was just a marketing funnel, actually. Like sure, you can break it down, and yeah, sure, there's all this technical stuff, and but it all boils down to a marketing funnel. You put in something and you have to get something at the other end,
Yep.
which makes it a lot easier to sleep at night, makes it a lot easier to look at it rational. But when we switched and we took maybe something like $50,000 between us, the three founders, and put it in the business, and then took another 50,000 euros, that would be $60,000 or something like that. And we took like an angel investment to get us started. And we put that money, and we were seeing like 5 to 10K going into server costs each month. And it was like we didn't know when the first day when we can pay ourselves would be. And it would be this whole, like a big client telling us that we'd have to wait another month before getting started on our project would be, and that would be a tragedy for us because we didn't know how to. Yeah, you get it, I'm sure.
Yep.
It depends on what kind of a person you are. For me, that's extremely stressful, so I would never go back to put in my own money. On the other hand, it's also your relationship with money that dictates how comfortable you are on spending somebody else's money. In Eastern Europe, the valuations are not as crazy as in the US.
Yeah.
A regular valuation for like an early stage company, first round, is between 3 and 5 million euros,
Okay.
$4 to $6 million. It's not that easy to raise in Romania, or in Romania, Hungary, Bulgaria.
I imagine it's really hard. You're the first person I've ever talked to that raised money in Romania.
In Romania,
So
there are maybe 20 deals a year, something like that, officially.
wow.
We do
Wow. And
have,
there's so many developers too.
yeah, we do have companies that have gone crazy. Like there's this company called UiPath that's valued at something like $10 billion right now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a market leader in their category, and yeah, it's this huge company. But there aren't that many deals. We're basically just starting up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but the thing is that there has been the first generation of entrepreneurs here in Eastern Europe. There are a lot of people willing to help. So basically what we did, and I would recommend I think that this works better in a more connected environment like the US, but then just if you're not there, then this is something that can work in smaller environments like ours. It's reach out to people that are willing to help, and have done it before. They will have a very good network. They will have very good tips for you. At first, I think it's a networking game before it's a business game.
Yep.
We've known our investors for a while before getting money from them. They've seen me failing to make a pitch at first, without a product, without knowing what my target market would be and what my differentiator would be and what is the long-term vision, and without having a good answer to what are you going to spend my money on, which is, when you think about it, it's a pretty obvious question, wouldn't you say? Like, yeah, I'm going to
Yep.
give you this amount of money, what are you going
Yep.
to spend it on? And I didn't have an answer. And then I came back when I did have an answer, and we basically had a process of getting better and better. I made a fool of myself in some meetings. I made a very good impression in others. I looked to two very connected and highly experienced people that have done business since before I was born, sold some startups, very respected, worldwide network, and took them on as angel investors. And I think that's the best thing that anybody can do who is raising money for the first time. They helped me all throughout the process. They helped me with maybe things that I would have just put on hold in terms of big decisions in the life of business, like should we go for this or go for this? Should we focus or should we try and do something else and see if it sticks better, or other very important questions? And they were just very helpful. And the way we brought them on, we said, like, we're going to raise this round. We don't know if we're going to raise it now, or we don't know the details. We don't know. But we just want to take you on and give you a discount when you're going to get in the round. So you have better odds. You'll get an instant ROI when we raise the money. We just ask for a lot of trust, because at this point, you don't know if we're going to raise or not. You might just give us money and then we spend it and go back to having a job. So you still have to trust us as people. But at that moment, we didn't have any answers in terms of business.
So I know people in this group are asking or have asked this question. So they've asked me this question: when you raise money,
Yes.
how much did those the angel people or the VCs want to be involved in the company? Like what amount of time I mean, I know, what I tell people is bring somebody on who has the connections, bring somebody on who can be a good mentor, somebody who, like, if as soon as you bring them on, you've already got sales lined up. But they don't want to like put their hand on top of your hand and move the mouse for you. Like, they want you to run the business. What has been your actual experience with that?
We can go for like 15 more minutes if that's okay with you, because I have like
12 o'clock.
I can talk about this for like 24 hours straight.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we'll go for 10 more minutes, and then I have another meeting that's going to start at 12:30. So
okay,
I have to go and I have to prep for it.
Sure.
So yeah, but tell me how that is going. And by the way, before I forget, we also have in the group, we have Amanda Sabra, who raised a whole bunch of money out of Silicon Valley, and I think we've got a number of other Silicon Valley funded startups in here. So I'm really interested to know how your experiences differ from hers, and maybe at some point we can put together a venture panel of people that have done this to see, to talk about the challenges they have, etc. But tell me about your experience.
Yeah, I think there's the European version of it and the American version of it. In the US, as far as I know, and working with tens of companies that have raised money, it happens really quickly, and nobody wants to put their hands over yours and move them out. In Europe, you'll see this tendency, especially since most of the money that's been made is like first generation money, people that have hustled through the mud and then risen up, and now they have some money, so they're very careful with it. Even though they have lots of money, they still are in the same mentality, like they have to take care of each invested penny. You have to run away from those people. Just run, never look back. You can test it really quickly. I got this feedback very early in my career, and it's been a life-saving advice from the first business I've ever tried, which was a catering business, and died because we were 3 people and we got into a fight after our 4th event or something like that. And the advice, we were 2 young people, like 20 years old, and the third one, which was like 50, had the kitchen, had the money, and had the network. And we were like arrogant enough to have a fight with him. And the advice was to try and bring conflict as early as possible in a relationship, just to see how the other person handles it, which when negotiating a term sheet is a great opportunity for that. Even though you could kind of negotiate in a way where there's absolutely no conflict, I think you should inject some artificial conflict just to see how the relationship goes, because you'll have lots of tough times. What we did was we pitched in the optimistic way that you would, and then when we got initial interest, that we brought up the biggest risks, our deepest fears, our darkest moments, and then we bounced off ideas with the investor just to see how they feel about it.
Got it.
Now, right after we raised, the first thing I did in our first official advisory board, I brought up the biggest problems that we're seeing, and I looked at them and like, I don't know what to do, way just to see how they react. That's one of my main concerns. I don't want, because if things go extremely well, then everybody knows what to do. Like, if we're gonna be a $1 billion company in 5 years, I'm pretty sure we'll handle it.
Yeah.
If we're gonna run out of money in 6 months, there's not that much we can do, but we have to plan for that in between where it kind of goes well, but there's a lot of problems and we maybe lose key employees or we don't find an appropriate person on that position, or like we lose the biggest customer, or like plan for those situations.
Gotcha.
Always ask for references. Is like hiring on a key role. Always talk to other companies. Always ask uh, tricky questions, like give me an example of situation where you did not get along with them and explain to me how you got to a resolution.
Okay.
It's all I tend to be extremely careful with who I get in bed with, but the good investors will always appreciate that.
Yeah.
um
So I have actually we really are running real short on time.
Sorry.
No, it's no problem. So we had one person that was just like, "Hey, this is super awesome. Got to hop off, but thanks, Florin." We had a couple other messages as well coming in, and I wanted to. If there's anybody that's on still, I think a number of people have jumped off because it's past noon and they watched for an hour and then they were like jumping off. But if anybody has any questions for Florin, please drop them in right now. Like, let's do a real quick Q&A. And then what do you think, Florin? Like, maybe let's get together a VC panel and do everybody, because I think there's a bunch of people. And you know what I forgot to do? I don't think I ever posted up our discount. So
add it in the comments afterwards, I think.
Yeah, of course. It'll be in the comments. But for anybody who's still on, I've just put the little scroller on with the discount. I got to remember for my next video or my next interview to like put it on like at the halfway point or something. All right. So I'll tell you what. So we're running pretty much out of time. If you were going to give entrepreneurs one piece of advice, like the one big takeaway, either for scraping or for VC or just running a business or whatever, what would it be?
Be extremely thoughtful when you choose a co-founder. I think that regardless of choosing the right market or like doing the right sales, that these are all things that you can adapt to and change, and one like a very inspired night can change all of that. But if you don't choose the right co-founders or the right partners, that's something that it's very hard to recover from. And there are moments, and I'm sure it's like that for everybody. There are very low moments when you need the right person right next to you, and then you need a lot of trust. Or maybe you're the one that's slipping off, and you need a lot of trust from the other person so that they don't freak out, or they understand without making you feel guilty that they need to step up for a bit until you recover. But you also need to have their trust that you're gonna come back and it's all gonna be fine. So I think this is in order to not go crazy, and remember that it's just something that you do with your life, not your life 100%. And in the worst times, it's very important to have somebody that you can rely on. 10 more seconds, please, Jason.
Yeah, please.
All the calls we ever had were like, and we're going a lot over the time that we had allotted. I realized I haven't given a proper answer to your earlier questions. Usually, angels will be a lot more helpful into operational, bouncing ideas, brainstorming, midnight calls, networking in your industry. Usually VCs are more about the bigger picture. They want to see like monthly reports and talk about the bigger stuff, or like exit, strategic partnership. They'll try to open doors you cannot get to, like getting to a VP of Salesforce for an API integration or something like that. They'll be the ones doing that and helping you with that. Finding your next investor, whatever. The bigger things, the smaller things, like I have this sales insight, can I bounce ideas off of you, that this will be angels most of the time. The U.S. investor, from what I hear, they're more hands off than in Europe. Like most of the time, from what I hear, I haven't raised in the US. It's like, here's the check, call me in 6 months, let's see how this goes, or
Gotcha.
call me if you have an emergency. In Europe, they're more like, um, let's have regular calls, and we'll more like the trusted consultant or advisor.
Gotcha.
I haven't met the bossy type yet. So
I work with a private equity group a lot here in the US, and they're kind of in the middle. Like they have pretty, weekly meeting or monthly meetings and sometimes weekly meetings, but they're pretty involved in their investments. They're actually really involved in their investments, but they don't control. They're not controlling. They're just heavily involved. I had one other question. I forgot what it was. Uh, oh, I remember. So on co-founders, just a note for everyone. Quinn from Zeta Labs is one of the other partners in this group in Kicking SaaS, and which she hasn't been super involved just yet. But we've been working out like how that's going to work out. And Quinn is awesome. She's a fantastic person. And her recommendation to me, actually her request from me, was to read the book Slicing the Pie, which talks about setting up partnerships and how to split things and how to make things work for both parties. Because she's like, you're going to put more time and energy. I'm more SaaS focused. She's more conversion focused. She wants to run teardowns and have other responsibilities, but we wanted to make it something that was really even for this partnership. And so it's on me now. I bought the book yesterday, and I have to read the book by the end of this week so I can talk to her about it. I think in 2 weeks. I have to talk to her about it on the 1st and finalize all of that. So so for anybody out there, Slicing the Pie is Quinn's recommendation. I haven't read it yet, but I'm sure if she recommended it, it's fantastic.
that's a great topic to read a book on. Are you gonna have a video with her and on this topic?
We're actually going to talk really soon about our vision for the group and what we want to do and how we're going to do it, and why we're doing these interviews and teardowns and like the kinds of people we want to have in the group and all of that.
Awesome.
So yeah, I'm really excited to have that Facebook Live with her. All right.
Okay.
Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about? I think we're
I want to read this book.
All right. Yeah, Slicing the Pie. I don't remember the author. I've got a copy on Kindle now.
Mike Moyer.
Say it again.
Mike Moyer.
Mike Moyer. Yeah, that was right. Mike Moyer. And I think Quinn just said she read the handbook. There's like the Slicing the Pie handbook, and then there's like the full book. And I think she said just get the handbook and you'll be fine.
Okay.
But anyway, I think that kind of wraps up our time. And Florin, thank you. It's so good to see you. I realized that I put out the event for the teardown on Tuesday, and I did not add you to the picture because I did it at like 2:00 in the morning last night. But I'm going to add you to the picture because you need to be there too to explain all the stuff. And for that teardown, we've got Quinn on there. We may have Quinn's UX designer, Chris. We have Matthew Krivnik, who I know from college, like 20 years ago. He was a designer in college. I think he was a business major in college, but he was doing web design in college, and he's amazing. He's fantastic. Also a member of this group. And then I'll be there also. So we'll be tearing down all this stuff, and yeah, it'll be good. So thank you. Thank you so much for all of your knowledge, all of your insight. I'll be putting together a blog article on this that pulls out all the pieces. And yeah, thank you so much. And it's good to see you, man. It's really good to see you. You look good, even though even though your hair is crazy, you've been sitting around for a long time.
Thank you so much, Jason, for having me. It was a real pleasure. So whenever you need me to come back here, I'll do it. I want to do 2 things for your group. I want to do like a 30-minute video on how to scrape everything from anywhere.
Oh, that would be great.
And I want to write like a short cold emailing guide. I'm working on a much larger sort of ebook, but I want to do like a quicker version that I can just put out like next week and put it in the group.
Perfect. If you want to extend that discount by another week and like put it up with those pieces of content, that might be a good idea. because I mean, you really know what you're doing, and your tool is fantastic, and I think it'll drive some additional sales for you.
Sure, I'll leave it for the next 2 weeks, and I'll mention in the comments how people can get this code working.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Thank
All
you so
right.
much, Jason.
Yep. Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Have a great day. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Hold on one second.